Hi guys, welcome to the first installment of We Have the Technology, We Can Probably Build It. I'm your host Nick,
I love that name.
Today we're going to be making a lightweight summer mask. Without further ado, go ahead and put it on so you can see.
There we go.
Very comfortable, very lightweight. It won't protect you from breathing a lot of stuff in, but it will protect you from breathing stuff out onto the surfaces around you, which is the whole point of wearing these masks in the first place. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Materials that you're going to need are obviously some fabric. Try and pick something lightweight. You're going to need an old pair of tights or some other form of elastic. If you already have some existing elastic on a string or something, you can use that. You can use rubber bands. There's all kinds of things you can use, but we're going to use this today. An optional piece of material is what's called flat wire. This comes in a spool. For about $5 you can get 10, 12 feet of it on Amazon or eBay. You don't have to have this, but it's a great thing to have. So that's it for materials. For tools, you're going to need some scissors. You're going to need pins. You're going to need some way to cut the flat wire if you're going to use flat wire. I'm using tweezers to help pull the elastic through the tunnels of the mask. I'll show you that later, but there's other things you can use.
In case you guys haven't seen, these scissors here are like the jam, the best scissors ever.
These are for trimming threads. It's
Very
really
handy.
easy up against your machine. You're also going to need either a sewing machine or needle and thread. You can sew this by hand, but it's a little easier with a sewing machine. And the last thing you'll need is an iron and an ironing board. So let's go ahead and get started. I've already pre-cut a piece of fabric so that we don't have to do it here on film. So out of your fabric, you're going to cut a 9" by 9" square. You don't need a pattern, you just need 9 by 9 square to get started. All right. Once you have that, you want to determine which way your fabric is going to be up or down if you've got a pattern on it or something. This one doesn't really matter because it's all just solid. The first step you're going to do is you're going to take your bottom edge and you're going to fold it up about 1/2 inch like that, and you're going to iron it. I'm going to break out my trusty ironing board here. It's just a piece of fabric, and might take a second for the iron to actually catch up because it's been sitting upright for a minute.
This is actually hoodie fabric, in case you guys are wondering.
It is indeed.
V1 hoodie fabric.
So this might actually take a second because I don't think the iron was hot. It's been standing upright. We'll come back around to it in a second. All right, and then you're going to fold it one more time. What you're doing is you're hemming it. You're tucking the raw cut edge underneath so that it's not exposed. So you're going 1/2 inch and then 1/2 inch again and ironing it all in place. Hopefully this iron will catch up fast. Let's see, I don't hear any steam coming, but all right, it's starting to work. All right, so that's one side. You're going to do the same thing on the other side. 1/2 inch first, maybe a little bit less. Doesn't have to be precise. And you're going to hit it with an iron. Seems like it's getting hot now, finally. And then 1/2 inch one more time. What you're doing is you're creating a hem on both the top and the bottom edges of the fabric. So iron that in place real well. I'm going to go ahead and hit this other side one more time real quick just to get it set now that my iron's pretty hot. All right. It's a good idea to pin it in place for your sewing as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it too. Pin. You can throw a couple of them in. Same thing on the other side. Pin. 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 All right. Next step, you're going to sew 1/8 inch from the edge of that fabric right there, just to lock everything in place. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to get the iron out of the way. And let's see, is this on? We go on. And we drop our needle in first. Put the foot down. Sorry, I don't need to get in your way.
Let me get that good view. Here we go.
All right. And you don't need to lock stitch anything in place yet. because we're going to hem the sides, which will keep everything locked in place at the end. So you just need to stitch there. I'm going to use my fancy scissors that Jason likes to trim it out. Do the same thing on the other side. This is a speed test to see how fast I can make this too. So I'm not even going to try and be that precise. Alright, cool. So we've got both of the top and the bottom hemmed. Pull all of our pins out, we don't need those. Trim all of our excess threads off. Keep a nice clean workpiece. Alright, our next step is to use our flat wire and insert it inside of the tunnel that we just created for our nose bridge. I'm going to cut this, it's a little long. You want about 1.5 to 2 inches, right in there somewhere. It doesn't have to be exact. So I'm doing that much. It's about 2 of my knuckles or so if you want something for length. Alright. You might want to file or sand the cut edge so that it goes in easier. I've found that the teeth on this thing do a decent job of just making it easy for me to get the thing in. So I'm just going to zip it over that little toothed area. But use a file or some sandpaper, it's a little easier. Alright, the next step is you want to fold your fabric in half and crease it so you can find the center of where your mask is. You want to do this on the top edge, so if you have a print, make sure your print is facing the right direction. This is going to be the top where your nose piece is going to go. Then you take your flat metal, feed it down into that tube. You're just going to keep pushing it through until you get it lined up about dead center. That's pretty close. All right. So the metal's inside there. You can kind of see I fold it back. What we're going to do next is we're going to drop a stitch right here, and the same thing on this side over here, and that's going to hold that in place. Drop our needle down. It's a little close. There we go. You gotta make sure you lock stitch this too. Go back and forth a couple times. That's good. Pull that up, pull it out. We'll trim it real quick. We'll trim it a little cleaner after we're done with the other side. Same thing on the other side. We drop the stitch down, drop our foot. Make sure you go back and forth a couple times. It locks it in good. Pull that out, and then we'll trim these little threads up. Always trim as you go. It's a lot easier than trimming at the very end. You don't end up with random threads getting caught in other seams and stuff. Do the back side as well.
So one thing I wanted to say while Nick is doing this is part of the reason I thought we have the technology, we can probably build it, was a great name for these kind of blogs that Nick is going to do. Is this is my favorite thing to see him work on, and this is how, obviously, you guys know, Nick and I started working together, was his love of basically making pretty much everything. What's going to be fun about this is when we get into some of his weirder hobbies of random things he knows how to make that we're totally going to document on here. We're starting with the mask, though. Here we go.
It's an important one. So this is just give you a little shot of how your mask should look now. You have a hemmed bottom edge, a hemmed top edge, and your nose bridge inserted with the sides tacked so that it doesn't move. All right. Next, you're going to turn over your fabric so that you have the back of the fabric showing. You're going to fold over a little under 1/2 inch or so on the side, and then you're going to iron that in place. Grab our trusty iron again. All right. And then you're going to fold it one more time. This time you want it to be about 3/4 inch. You want enough of a tunnel in the fabric that you'll be able to feed your elastic band through. So you want a little less than 1/2 inch on the first turn, and then about 3/4 inch on your second turn. You can go ahead and pin that in place. We're going to do the exact same thing to the other side, so that we're basically creating hems all around. See, this is a very, very easy mask to construct. Anyone who can operate a sewing machine can create this mask. It's a square with just a couple hemming procedures. Very simple to make. And I made it a little bit big on that side. It's not a big deal. They don't have to be precise. You know, it's still going to look good. Again, you want about 3/4 inch. You can measure it if you want to be exact. I'm pretty decent with small measurements like this. from my experience, so I don't need it. Pin that in place, and we're going to do the same thing we just did with the top and bottom hems. We're going to hem this, just a bigger hem so that we have a tunnel, so about 1/8 of an inch from the side. Go back over here and we get our iron out of the way so it's out of the shot. We don't need it anymore anyways. And drop our needle, drop our presser foot, and this time you do want to lock your stitches. And go back on it, pull my pin out. Don't forget to lock your end. All right. This machine is not my machine, so I'm a little not as used to it as.
This is one I actually bought for Kara, and she never used it.
So we ended up bringing it in here because every once in a while we have little sewing projects that we want to do. So
that is true.
Definitely useful to have in the office. And I sort of know how it works. It's, you know, most of these machines work kind of the same. All right, don't forget to lock stitch your end. And go back over it. And lock stitch at the finish too. All right, that way your seams won't come undone. All right, now you can see we have most of the sewing is finished at this point. Cut some of these excess threads off. So this is what your piece should look like now. As you can see, I went a little bit off on this side because I was just doing it manually quickly. But you can go precisely if you want. All right, so now we're going to create our elastic. The reason I'm using tights is because almost everyone's got a spare pair of tights sitting at the house. If you don't, like I said, you can use something other than tights. Anything that's stretchy will work. Swimsuit material, you can use rubber bands and just tie them off, however you want to do it. But in order to use tights, all you got to do is cut the feet off and then cut little, about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch strips like that. All right. So now I have my elastic bands. I'm going to open them up like that. And the best length that I've found is about 7 inches. I happen to know that these are 8 inches long, so I'm going to cut about 1 inch off of each side so that we have 7-inch strips. There's 1. There's 2. Let's get this out of here, clean up some of this dark stuff, and then when you pull on it, as you can see, it kind of turns into an elastic tube. Pretty neat. That's why I like working with these things. They're very, very comfortable. It doesn't rub your ears or anything like that when you're trying to use it. All right, and then the way I use the tweezers is I put the tweezers in, back end in first. You can use other things though. You don't need tweezers. Anything that you can fit down in this and grab this with. You can even tape this to the end of like a piece of wire or a coat hanger or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like a coat hanger would be good for that.
I used to when I was a kid and I was trying to figure out how to do some of this stuff. Coat hangers were like regular for me to use for all kinds of projects, especially stuff like this.
Yeah.
So there we go. We've fed it through once. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. Go in backwards. Grab our elastic. Make sure you pinch it good so you can get it all the way through. It doesn't come loose. There we go. Oh, lost it. Let's see if I can grab it. It's right here at the end.
If only these had our hoodie aglets on them.
I know, right?
You could interchange them. How cool would that be?
All right, cool. So the last, well, one of the next to the last steps is now we have to join our elastic. So this piece and this piece are going to get joined like this. And you go ahead and pin them in place if you need to. It can be helpful. I probably pin one and then I'll freehand the other one because I'm good enough at it that I can do it. So you just want to pin them together like that and then sew them. Go back over here. And this one you want to back stitch as well. The object is that you're just trying to join them. They don't have to be a perfect stitch. As long as the ends are attached, you don't even have to trim the threads very well. You can just leave it like that. You do the same thing on the other side. You're just going to join the two cut ends together I'm not going to pin this one. I'm going to just try and hold it.
Can he do it?
I can do it. Alright. Good enough. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. All you're doing is joining them. Clip your threads. They don't have to be clipped tight. Alright, we're almost done, guys. So the last thing you want to do is you want to pull this into this tube. The easy way to do that is just pull it out on the other side and keep pulling until that goes in there. There you go. So that sewn in end disappears into the tunnel so that it's not exposed on this side. Same thing over here. Pull one side so this disappears in. Now this is the easiest version of this mask that you can make, because instead of doing a bunch of pleats like you see on a lot of masks, it just uses gathering, which is much easier to do. Now that that's in there, I like to tack it in place. You don't have to do this step, but I'm going to do it because I like it to stay put. So that goes in there, that goes down, and again you want to backstitch this. Oh, you get some kind of an error happening. Alright, good enough. Do the other side. Oh no, it bird's nested on me. That happens.
Uh-oh.
That happens, guys. You just have to work around that sort of thing. Clip that out. And we'll hit it one more time. Alright, good. That one's locked in place, and we'll do the other side. Same thing, other side. Find about the middle. You can measure it if you want it to be perfect. I'm not usually worried about making it perfect. Alright, that is it. We are done with the sewing. Get everything clipped up nice and clean. Same thing on this side. Clip it. Clip it.
Show them how it looks, Nick.
Alright, that's it. We're all done. You tug that down. You can bend your nose bridge up. And there you go.
In just over 17 minutes. You
Did it take that long?
Yeah. No, that's good, dude. That was fast.
There we go. So that's it. That's all it takes. Thanks for watching. And if you have any ideas of some different kinds of projects you might want me to let me actually take this off so that people can read my lips if they need to. If you, thanks for watching. If you guys have any other kind of projects you'd like to see me attempt, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.
See you soon.